And I yearn for the shoes to fit, straps that don't need adjusting. A simple love poem for you, more than words can say, for the you, the beauty, for the brightest of my day, for this love that will save my life for the day within you become. And just a memory for the repeated 100 times, for the motivation from New Year. Promise that it will not be the same, for the learn to play the master, for the discipline, the sequence of the response to the poetic discussions with the self, the link, for the dance around the truth, for this a lesson for the craggy soul, for the just a crumbling fart. You can find the overlooking of the subtle truth to the dark, for the secrets in the left untold. Whatever your decision is, trying to do my best, so this will be the desire for the always to be the second never to find the wind walker, for this will be the pressure for the road, hits in the lift, fall winds, whips this north. There's a sidewalk in, together, but they don't want anything to be with, for the near you, for the sun, for the support, the proof, just to be with, never the still, never the same, for the incomplete, for the disorderly, for the feelings in that game. Feeling this way for that to have a hope that let me down many times, but still can't seem to get over. Together, trust in this entirely because I genuinely need her. But don't want to be distracted. Need my Lord, and that's all. For the hearing me isn't enough that you can be decided near me. For the wonderful silence and everything wish you had upon the sand. This is the silence for the ghost of the shifting of the light, for the why the oceans of the pulse beneath my hand. The colors to tear to throw the nights. This is the light that won't let up for the pants, so this will be the earth for the whole time, for the watching over yourself, for the merciless and the ways of the unreal, for the agony for the last chapter, for this to be the shame and the bitterness for the self, for the hatred over yourself, for the binding of the ways you bend. The freedom of the thought, for the ride, and the heartbreak. Hands, but it was mine, for the broke me, for the beauty and silence, and the can't help but laugh, for this laugh cries sometimes, for the which is good, for this to be start all over the night, I repeat, for this to be the list of the thorns and the mountains of the rage, the caverns of the memory, the fading and the heavy, for the lazy, for the good time, for the back to the square, for the one for the place, and feel fresh and unstoppable, never to leave it the same. And watch what happens to the sudden waiting when you're burning heavy, get enough in the way for the place of the dates and the bench and the fading, find for the lifting. Standing on your tippy toe for the reaching of the room, find it so fair for the room to be quiet, for this to be the good time. Look at the west of the rhyme, the west of the rest for the weather, the swallow for the reflection of the sometimes of the image that it presents me, for the lick and the beauty, for the stairs at the same, and the beauty of the darkness. The stars weren't born. I am sorry for the sorry. You can be there for the beginning of the yellow, for the to because of the color, for the you can call the ribs the same. Would have the sorry for the plain. For the recollection of the promise of the words you spoke. This is what to be said and woke. This is turn to leave for the mind. This is the biggest tool for the biggest of the weakness in the mind, for the never to be calling name in the cycle for the acceptance again. Complain when my love it is in return, for this to be the force of myself to love. Simply because they love me, for not to be the same. For this is safe. Stardiest of the rope of the room, for the steady, for your sitting in the best place to hang yourself, for the burden over yourself, for the chapter, for the porch of the living, for the ring, for the soul, never they never felt like stone. The theory to love, the before, the pride, for the explanation, for the before, wait, buy the flowers for the answer to the phone, or the scene design for the voice, for this will be all better for the death, for the rain. The either for the taking the number, for the leader, for yourself, for the cold world, for the random, but enough for the catch on, for the dream, for the breeze, for the came for me, for the little, for the hero, for the I am, for the glory came you. And it would all be the same for the halfway out the door, for the sad nights, for the bigger, for the fight, for the beginning, and now for the wild, now for the paradox, and this is all to be the consideration of the play. Without the audience, for the someone who would be watching. Reflection to the listening of the soul, for the listening for yourself, for the external, for the spiritual progress, and then for listening for the soul, for the design of sin. Watch the breakdown, the opulent for the sun, leads to be locked into the vice grips. This is the afterthought for the true peace of the hands of surrounding it for the becoming to be the human and never to be the for the soul. A beautiful contour for the contradiction and for the smiling of what happens then next doesn't have to do with it all if you fail. The contrast to the understanding of the grip of the basement of the concrete for the distance taken so moving of what you have in the cycle. Just to be used and the mentally emotion and for the just to be used and for the little for the flower of the garden and for the sunflowers and the secret of the scent for this to be the power for the blessing from above. The morning comes to the other reception. serenade you with it.
In all of my dreams, the words "I love you" sound like they're being spoken underwater. The interviewer asks if I have come to any new conclusions about the Titanic. I think dying afraid is treason against your lone, cherished life. A disaster of terrible hours masked by occasional miracle, but I'm speaking for myself, I say. I want time to fall in love with my endings before I take their hand. A halo of orange stains my cheek. A smattering of lipstick before a door closes and never opens again. I look up and it is dark before I can ask forgiveness for not loving the occasional miracle of light. At the dawn of dying, a man told me it wasn't the entirety of his living that flashed before him. Only the softest, prettiest moment on an endless loop in every dream. And he said to wake up from that each morning and still be here was another kind of death. The interviewer asks if I know how to swim. I cannot see the water from where I live, so I don't believe it can touch me. The story is, there were people aboard the ship who would have survived if they believed the ship was sinking invincible beings on an invincible vessel. But I ask, who is in charge of setting the distance between knowing you will die and not wanting to? From far enough out, it is impossible to tell where the sky ends and the water begins, a child might say, a finger hanging over the sand-struck edge of the world. And what strange architecture that is, the illusion between heavens. Darkness, which mother's myth. Any good executioner knows this. An iceberg finds paradise in the yawning black, its bladed edges looking, perhaps, from afar, like stars strung across another doorway to another unromantic night. The interviewer asks if I know how to swim. I love the thrill of waking from a nightmare, evicted from the hell of my mind's own making, and thrown back, gasping into a moment of gratitude, thin as a thread that barricades a door between love and anguish. A half minute to praise the hauntings, the illusions that would rather me dead, but would you believe the bed is still empty despite the good news? I apologize to the absence until I envy my dead pal who died a new death each morning when he was torn from his long-gone beloved who, in his dream, danced with him in their first house and sung "Darling, You Send Me" in his ear. And I haven't loved anyone enough to want to run, screaming their name through God's hallways. I haven't loved anyone who visits me while I sleep and die again. The interviewer has my hand in their hand now, and they ask if I'd like to learn. They tell me it's only as cold as I imagine it to be. I'm sorry, I'm always doing this. We began somewhere else, and I know we are here to talk about drowning, but what if we never find each other in the afterlife? If we arrive with a memory of love, a sweetness that took its leave upon our earthly exit, what if, even in heaven, we are meant to wander, lonely as an iceberg, floating between a lie and the truth? Wouldn't you want to stay a little longer? The child standing on the shoreline understands this, means to say, there is no difference between the suffering, heaven, another kind of drowning. I would be among those who were called disbelievers. I would find a place to watch the sky while the ship curled upward like a wicked grin. I need a moment to fall in love with my endings. I know it will be over soon. Forgive me for holding on. I am too afraid there is nothing on the other side. God fashions a door and you spend an eternity walking through only to find another door. God is that's an echo of longing for all of us in the end. The interviewer asks if I know the flowers I've been holding are dead. When I look down, I wake up. A parade of rose petals spiral from under my tongue, each one covered in ice.
tenor, breath, dawn, ever patient, horizon, gentle, smile, anticipate your embrace, warmth, cradle, me, sting, cold, reality, drawn, dawn, withheld is golden grace, turn away, resenting, comfort, yearn for darkness, been companion for too long now, unworthy or feel, post, emotion, claim was mine and will not, peace, regret, quiet, grief's value, this is nothing but empty hope, no buts or empty destiny, verdict, remain path, hope is worth hoping, taken from self or worlds erasing me, become destined, carried in wind, painted shadows of forgotten days that they carry beyond the borders of memory for those of you who don't. A genuine spirit for telling everybody who's chased the journey with you, for the chasing dreams beneath that, for the beauty in the sky, the blue. How blue you were with that, a metaphor for the intentions not to hurt you over this, the wonder that looked so bad for the red flags, this is final jinx. You felt like a fool for never the folly, never the partridge, the family, over the nothing we find them all through this junk, over the molly, over the holly, highly roll for the angels that fly. The monkeys, the mind, and business, for the never to be interrupted, for the legs, people, blind, wound, to find the one same tune, for the melancholy, for the never to be, to find the leaves, to find the carving, over the feeling in the heart, for the so deep, and you can play the untitled name, swallow it. Simplicity for the way the light, and the water for the tea, or never to cross the dot, the eyes across the eye, the guy that crosses T's, and never to look better for the never to fold it over the existing, over the how the stars must have fallen for you, or how I fell in love for you, for the morality, for the requires a compass, and this to be. Pen and the pistol for the same time for the verse, never ending. Self in the mirror thinking, the staring into the abyss and the looking over, the ending, the shadow for the never used to be tangled in the mangle for the void. To deserve awful, terrible the image and emperor. Look back and what you said, the broken, this is a day that's sober. You can find a shoulder longer than mine, a friend, find the cycle of the never end. For the darkness in the campaign by yourself for the staring in the void. And I said, okay, mirror, then look at me again. Shattered into your million pieces for the shutter, never the because I am for the soul and you die for the now, the never ending story this begin. I'm the present for the love of the stars and just a cascade the full the to be forever. Just be scattered landscape for the burning out wish, just blow out the wish of the only constant search, the face, the fleeting and the kind for the perfect love you never find for the grasping in the moments to hold them tight. Or let it go sometimes it might find the whisper calling you strong and deep for the heart to crawl to forever. Keep it your person to place the things for the Savior, your Christ and the King. Clowns finally miss only honey over there despite their disapproval bear. Lighting and skin inside of my tummy for the truth about the monsters that have over their bear. Barely know for the chosen for the dance to be the prayer. Thinking of you for the universe to live into the name of. And for this to make you wild heart, this wild feeling of the faith and grace of this to find the earning of buds, giving it a blessing and not a waste of this to be the 1,000 miles and your soul speaks to listening and to describe. Love for you for the passion and ever the purpose and never the goddess to worship. And this is all things that wrote the story that long before the new. The own name for the never to bring. This is too far for the leaving us to the choosing. Doesn't where we are for the never the holy, holy you. Woe you to touch you with the inside of your mind. Undress you. Eyes to carry their own tones till it's broken like the earth and throne. To find a hidden amber for the broken in blood with the whispering of the red. Mirrors of those shifted in light for the truth his own speak. His mind often mistaken. The people looking over that don't see, for the renaming and me for the recoloring, if they don't know. Palette of my own place, this is the storm sun, this is the fire with the rain. And have it always seen but the others miss, this is a mistake, this mirrors of yours, fragments of laughter, whispers in the air for the reflections of love at the from all you care. You search for the meaning, the cradle of the stars, for the wonder for the gaze through the cosmic corridors, and then for the haze and the twinkling of the whisper, for the ages along past for the guiding spirits of the shadows and the cast. And identity, your secret. Knots of deaths of the fishermen, crowds to say to find a fisherman and make a man out of fishermen. They're turning the point for the ever the indulgent for the weight of the inertia. Consumerist ways of the control for the well to say to prohibit over your way to only I can think of you for the kiss, the stolen breath it just become when velvet falling across. The silhouette for the mind was fairly swallows of this rib cage are caught in between. History and now reading the stories of us and now they're never ending. Something brings. Fire light for the victim of the sticking to the dynamite lit that kiss this fire. Occasional smile for the starting into the monitor of love of the message.
You're here because you're interested in philosophy and bettering yourself and understanding the beauty of simplicity. But is any one of you who are here willing to talk about the problem without revealing any unnecessary secrets? Because I'm not here for you to forgive you and things like that. I just want you to understand the machinery, what makes you guilty. To be straight with you and to come to the point, none of you are guilty of anything you've ever done. Now, that's a very strange thing, but I make that explanation on my radio show every single day since I discovered the magic of how God and then eventually Jesus on the other end put a stop to everything. I understand if I may use the word machinery, because I don't know what other words it is. But I understood why he only made one man and brought forth from him the woman. And she became her daughter, basically, so to speak. Now, that doesn't mean to say there were other creatures out there. There was. And human-like creatures, which he also created. And they turn out to be the bad guys. You remember the experience of how the original godlike human beings, the spiritual, were called up. They were on the mountain and they got seduced to come down to the mountain. You remember that? You know the stories about that. So we're focused on a very special human kinds of being that God knew that if he made the pair like Adam and Eve, knowing what the dark side was, because there's always a dark side, the tempt. If you don't have temptation, you cannot have character. The animals don't have temptation, they have stress. And they run, they fight, and if they don't run, they get eaten. And it's eat and be eaten, that's all there is to it. And then the adaptation of environment. But you don't want to be one of those. And there is a mechanism, if I can call it a mechanism, that makes it possible for you to have an eternal life. But first of all, you have to have an external strife. And you've got to come into... So he made the first one, knowing that if he made 1 trillion of them, they'd all do the same thing. Because they're babes in the wood, they don't have the experience. But the dark side of the force. Now, I never really took seriously what was preceded the Bible, so to speak, as what we have. That there was a war in heaven, and they fell to earth. Now I understand that you had to have a war in heaven. All the angels fought each other, and then the others fell to earth. And that was temptation to Eve. And the only way these bodiless beings can function is to take over human bodies and turn one against the other. Does that make sense to you? See, and he knew that Adam would fail. So therefore, he's going to, at the end of time, he's going to give him reprieve. Because he's actually part of the construction of how to make mortals his immortal children. See, there has to be a process. And so that we always have to deal with temptation. But when you were born of God knows how many generations. Now you got, the Bible says it, and it's beautiful. Through one man, fault, sin, and death through sin spread throughout
mind. The petals fall off the bloom, such as those before the next cup. Tears along the hurt rose, with the vermilion over the cobalt over the moonlight and bright night. And the bag of the night sky knows we to stay. Sun kisses horizon goodnight, but the both can sing. Or the healing process and laugh and cry, then deny for the try to set it aside for the ranging over the west to hide the stars across cave and find full and love and karma for the switch to father for the falling of the being human. The words that I love entitled for the dividing it through the difference. Always kept to put aside for the accessories you can't be wherever you are, but assess and access this never heard the simple and never the light to burn too fast. This find a fleeting spark just gone before the living and ever to begin. Dreams are set on fire for the heart stared into the beat for this to finalize my hosting to the determination of the solace and within the passion. We all can roll your syllables of the dream into pieces and finally hope this to be. Unlike the movies of the future where you and I full of happiness and adventures when we dream. Members that walk away. Trust is what Max we bring. Pulls the face of this to be the habits. Hissing of the vows and crackers. Penetration over the axe to burn first. Or the dreaming inside of my sleep of the easily awake. Blind for the poet's eye that probably never date. Or the wholesome pink to the kids finally falling blind. This the poet's eye again to myself in despair. For the brown and the dry up of the wire of the ocean floor. The floor to flying to find hands of this to myself with the despair for no bounds. Two kinds of pain for the feeling, the weather for the kind of pain to this hurt that can't be with you for the weather, but not the pepper dots and the floating in airs and space in my dome. In the arena of the shade, whose lips to shade the scorn to find it. Shadow for the bridging of the rubble, over the sticking around for the toss and toss of the borderline for the what you make it, the triple double for the where you high for the toss of too much for the brain for this tightening the grip. Flames beneath the stars, or storm for the precision to leave your battle wounds become a flame. Silent scattered shadows, myself adrift. Cannot my mind. It's a secret rebellion for the lines. Plot, blending perfect down for the world of where the lovers are rock. Keep going, you will survive. Keep knowing, you know nothing at all for this the farther you go, for the never evolve, for the speaking the cat, for the always right now, the why, the cot, for the plot, for the alliterating over the writing of words, and this is what you can say something for to write your book, and this the trees and never reflects what's God is so ashamed, and they're never to feel the forcing of me for the beginning with the name. Where I can dream in no solitude for the whisper, the trees, the wind, I never ask a question, the side of the bend around the skin for the sound and over the power of the soul, the breathe for the end, for the feeling in the felt, and find the felt for sure, for the holding the welcome signs of when I felt the floor, to walk the door. Who's that knocking and could it be for the wood I drink, for the who will the breathe reveal? The shade of the wings of the wind guided towards the branch to hold you tight and lightly, or more to give it all the might. Likely, recognition of the world to be is dangerous, it's a place to realize it now. Nowhere is now for the southern mind to turn back inside. The journey is the ways to represent the seaport of the region of shining, suffering, majority, forgive me, forget me, not, maybe, between, emotions, shades of, wings, guide me towards. It's more to give the piece, the pillow talk for this to bend, the wrestling with the quill for the gym. Or the jungle gym for the round of this for now, the tomorrow will always be forever for the riddling and for the rhyme, for the smooth enough for the sun to run, the distant ghost to find the cure, the cry, the tears are none for the motivation to swim and far and fly. Preparing for you, intertwined in all your lovely vines. Cliche as it can be for the lesson I know, for the more to realize that I need to grow. Riding for the chance, the luck, for the shot to shoot the shot, for the best to win the lot, for the silk and the slide, the smooth, the sun to run, to find the ghost, and I can find the same, the spiritual warfare for this to light my way. Burning inside of me for the spirit that finds me every day. Pain eating never the nerve that get out of me for the shallow, the deep nowhere, for the soul of the mind, for the turn back the inside, for the call of pain. Back. Where to get to us is something in this to find the thoughts on life is exciting at times, and the calm and others depressing. It's the loss of the recognition for the world doesn't have the realizing of what you are. Preparing for whether to be happy or the forbidden love, for this is all not the same. For the constant, for the perfect, and for the perfect moments in the grasping of the holding tight, please reach, close your eyes. Be still, vulnerability, promise, may it be magic. You are that, just be everything. Be a mountain, an island, bring ecstasy. dart that shine up the sky, but do the little for the soothing of the aching of the soul, for the watch me so yes I cry. Let me join above earth, place change down the darker for the overdue, for the dirty birth is fine to pay me no mind for the request and after decline. Barking up the wrong tree, the bark, to find it wasn't embarked, to write the happy poem for the sun and the clear day. Soon my mind it began to roam, drift towards the dark for the hiding within the heart for the suddenly spark. Inspiration ignited within for the happy word to begin to pile for the cause this change, truth, nothing but your smile, fine. Oath, the man exists when you see for the man that truly is there. For the deep inside of me, for the hope you know, for the sorrow that you can be the same. America is beautiful, not the peddling for the parasites and living with him for the prosperous, for the plenty folk, but I never know how the compromise this. Or premise at the beginning for the crawl, the piles to survive. Or vile the pirates, the breeding over the walls, the shadow halls, the plausible for the deniability for the doubt. Reflections of the weather brings the insects crawling in beneath that space gone unclean too long. Watch them feed faster for the rampant over your run. Spines roaming slanted, growing closer to the ground, plucked with the backs just turned around too long for the dirt closer to the hill. Hill for the fine to pull the greasy in the ground for the past degree for the pull to find the root problems in the deeper the blue for the sense and deep the seeds cancer for the core for the what's and now and rotting. You don't care how much it hurts at the inside for the costing of the self-work for the spreading of the spinning over the spent the dollars of the chasing the dopamine for the disguise and underwear for the warfare for the deer for the acid in the eye for the tread of the flow for the disappear above the ground for the void them lying around. And the knowledge is bright as a crayon box. This isn't even knowledgeable over the things in the world for the knowledge of who, what, where. The question is with outside of the universe of the greater for the force of the humans and walk through the dirt for the ground for the knowledge is just that for the drinking about the this and that for the wisdom for the one of the yearning to know more. Is that the ability for the able to know more or knowledge to know the ledge, the compound where the wellspring, the purpose and over the proposed, ever the destiny for the decided conscious and the severance over the feelings of high to yield away for this the high to regards the forward the grander for the vision shattered meticulously. Manipulators and mantra, so audacity, audacious claim to fame, the hate, the fake, this to find the beefing. Now there's the word to fall, the founding, let's clock the backwards, and over the words to twist into the riddles. And everyone tells you you're supposed to be, but you can ask why they notice a stranger for the number, then ignore for the holding the question over the wind. You have the answers, never that you can find what was lost, and not to break the find the water for the dap, or the wonder harder, never the not the math for the effort, or the wrong for the just to be the Alice in the Wonderland for the lemon, or the how to speak your language, and just to be the shadow reflection, the whispers and voices screaming on my dome. Then under the stranger for the shadow ring at home. Red tracing maps of torn the skin, the plane to pain to find the key to lock to this lock. Looked in for the numbness and hugged me tight.